Welcome back to the Gore Guide, where we're on a journey to compile the definitive list of gore and splatter films. Today we're taking a spoiler-free look at the latest installment in the DC Universe. It is, of course, The Suicide Squad. The Suicide Squad is a 2021 film based on the DC Comics written by John Ostrander. It's written and directed by James Gunn and stars Margot Robbie, Idris Elba, and John Cena. While 2016 Suicide Squad was a box office success, it was a disappointment to many fans, and it's been repeatedly stated that this film isn't a sequel, but it's not really a reboot either. Rick Flag, Captain Boomerang, Amanda Waller, and of course Harley Quinn are all returning characters, and there are implications that they know each other, but there's never any mention of the previous mission. It does, however, make use of the previous film's origin storyline and is able to skip over any explanation for the squad and just get straight into the action. But is it an improvement on the original film, or is it just another disappointment? Well, let's take a look and find out. Task Force X, which is comprised mostly of prisoners with extraordinary powers, is assembled and ordered to travel to the South American island of Corto Maltese. Once there, they are to locate the scientific experimentation facility called Jotunheim, home to a secretive experiment known as Project Starfish. They have to capture the Thinker, the scientist who's in charge of the project, to gain access to the facility and destroy everything. But it's not going to be that easy. Project Starfish turns out to be an enormous extraterrestrial starfish with the ability to control people's minds. And it's mad. Will the Suicide Squad save their own asses, or finally do the right thing and save the innocent civilians of Corto Maltese and possibly the world?
We're all gonna die.
I hope so.
I really like that they didn't have to waste any time with an explanation thanks to the previous movie, and the pacing really benefits from that. The action is excellent. Honestly, it feels more like a comedic war film than anything else, and even the marketing and posters allude to this. It's very reminiscent of The Dirty Dozen, a war movie where a group of criminals are assigned to a near impossible task in exchange for a reduced sentence. That plotline is basically the Suicide Squad, but that structure allows for unhinged and unstable but likable and interesting characters.
Starfish is a slang term for a butthole. Think there's any connection?
The ragtag group of criminal superheroes is reminiscent of Watchmen, and the goofy characters like the Weasel, Polka Dot Man, and TDK remind me a lot of 1999's Mystery Men. All of the characters in Suicide Squad are great and all make an impact in one way or another. I particularly love the Weasel, but unfortunately it wasn't used very much in the film. Although the King Shark character is obviously introduced because of the popularity of Groot in the Guardians movies, he's still my favourite character.
Bird.
He's a great white in the movie instead of a hammerhead because of the placement of the eyes, and is voiced by Sylvester Stallone. In fact, this character is basically Sly in every role he's ever played, but just a shark this time. His short phrases, limited dialogue, and constant state of confusion work perfectly when put behind a CGI human-shark hybrid whose prime directive is to get num-nums.
Num-num?
And this is definitely the best appearance of Harley Quinn to date. Not only is she an absolute badass in this, but she's well developed, not just objectified or presented as just a deranged sex object for once. They're really built on her newfound independence, which was established in Birds of Prey. She never says the Joker's name, but makes a couple of mild references to her past life.
If we find out you have personalized license plates, you die.
What? No.
She also has some awesome action scenes, especially the one where she's fighting her way through a corridor using a javelin she was given by a fallen comrade and seeing flowers instead of blood. But even though she's the most recognizable character, she's not in the spotlight any more than any of the others. Gunn's willingness and ability to balance the significance of a well-known character with, say, Sebastian, super cute rat in a vest, is a testament to his skills as a writer and a director. James Gunn is obviously known to wider audiences for the Guardians of the Galaxy films, but he also directed the excellent Slither and Super, another R-rated superhero movie. Gunn got his break writing for Troma, and this film really brings in some of the elements that company is known for. He even brings in Mr. Troma himself, Lloyd Kaufman, for a brief cameo in a bar. Speaking of cameos, there are quite a lot of them in Suicide Squad. Some are pretty recognizable, like Taika Waititi as Ratcatcher 1 and Nathan Fillion as TDK. But you'll also see John Ostrander. The director's brother, Sean Gunn, appears as Calendar Man and Weasel. And Pom Klementieff, who plays Mantis in Guardians of the Galaxy, appears as a dancer in the bar. I'll talk more about the gore in the bloody section, but it deserves a mention here because it's so good. I did not expect this film to be as gory as it is, and I was really surprised with the quality and frequency of the gory effects. In addition to the war elements and the over-the-top gore, it's also a monster movie centered around Starro the Conqueror.
We've got a freaking kaiju up in this shit!
A giant psychic starfish from space who can expel tiny versions of himself that attach to people's faces and control their mind. He was the first villain the Justice League ever fought in number 28 of The Brave and the Bold back in 1960, and it was awesome to finally see him have his big screen debut. The inclusion of Starro was a good choice, especially since they famously changed the ending of Watchmen to get rid of the giant space octopus because they thought the general public wouldn't get it. The pacing of the film is great. This isn't some 3 or 4 hour marathon, it's just over 2 hours and it uses its time well, never outstaying its welcome. The storyline is simple, it never has any lulls, and the well thought out soundtrack aids in the entertainment. While The Suicide Squad has a few serious and thought-provoking moments, it's well balanced and genuinely funny. I frequently found myself laughing out loud, and I had a smile on my face through the whole film. So I can look past discontinuity when it comes to comic book adaptations, but these elements of The Suicide Squad might upset some of the hardcore fans. While I do like that they moved on from the first film, some acknowledgement of the previous mission may have added to the story, especially seeing as there's some returning characters. The film starts off with a very bloody beach invasion, which from a gore perspective is excellent. However, it disposes of a few really good characters, one in particular, way too quickly. I understand the interest of adding shock value through the massacre of these team members, but I would have loved to have seen some of them last a bit longer. It feels like a bit of a waste to eliminate them so drastically and so quickly. Like all the films that rely heavily on CG, some of the effects are a bit dodgy. And finally, there's a mid and a post-credit scene which show characters we presume dead to actually be alive. This feels like a bit of a cop-out, knowing that there's a series in the works for one of the characters, which is set after the events of this film. I hadn't planned on reviewing The Suicide Squad because, well, it's an adaptation of a DC comic. It's not going to be gory. How wrong I was. It genuinely surprised me how gory this film was. Someone gets graphically shot in the face. Someone gets the top of their head chopped off and the brains exposed. Someone's head explodes. Someone gets chopped to pieces with the helicopter's blades. People are shot, blown up, set on fire. And this is all in the first 15 minutes. Some of the violence is a bit comical, but it is a violent film and it doesn't hold back. The gore is great. The effects are mostly CG with a few practical mixed in, but the budget is big enough to ensure that the computer effects are convincing. So it gets 4 out of 5 for amount of blood and 4 out of 5 for quality of effects. This isn't the first R-rated comic book adaptation. It's not even the first R-rated DC comic book adaptation, but it might be the first to take things as far as it does. Fans of Guardians of the Galaxy might be a bit put off by the gratuitous violence, but it has everything that I want from a movie. Action, comedy, gore, monsters, emotion. It's fast-paced, well-written, and the characters are all great. I really hope that we get a sequel. So The Suicide Squad gets 5 out of 5 stars. Let me know in the comments what your thoughts are on The Suicide Squad. Which was your favourite character? There's a link in the description below to my Gore and More list of films on Letterboxd. And as usual, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and click on the bell to keep up to date with new content. Thanks for watching, and until next video, have a bloody good time.